Hello and welcome to Talks at Google. My name is Anna Wikland and I'm the country director for Google in Sweden and also the co-site lead for our Stockholm office. Thank you so much to everyone who are dialing in. A big warm welcome. And I really want to give a special welcome to today's guest, Klas Bergling.
Thank you very much, and thank you for inviting me and the initiative from Google to bring this subject, mental illness, on the table. I think it's very brave and it's really a very good initiative from the company.
Thank you. And for everyone listening in, Klas is the father of Tim Bergling, more commonly known as Avicii, a world-known both DJ and music producer, one of the greatest ones from the last decade, who also worked with big, well-known artists such as Madonna, Wyclef Jean, David Guetta, and many, many more. In 2018, Tim died of suicide, only 28 years old. And in memory, Klas and his wife Anki, Tim's mom, created Tim Bergling Foundation to raise awareness and address the stigma of mental illness, which we will hear about more today. So Klas, really thank you for joining us and giving us the opportunity to learn more about Tim Bergling Foundation, and also for us to discuss what we as society can do more to both prevent and address mental illness. And for you listening in, we're planning to have a talk for around 20 minutes, and then we're going to open up for a few questions. And to kick us off, and for those listening who might not know Tim or his music or that familiar to it, Klas, can you please start by telling us shortly about who Tim was and his story?
Absolutely, Anna. Thank you. I'm having a script here because I'm in Corona times called elder. So I can have it, and I also have the Corona haircut, as you can see. I cannot go to the barber, so that's it. But Tim was an ordinary young kid, I must say. He was a sweet guy, and he had a very serious part also, kind of mature all from start, I must say. And he could be very naughty, very stubborn, which was part of his energy and I think also success in music. So he spent his time in Stockholm. He went to schools in Stockholm, and quite early, I think about 13, 14, he started with computer games, Warcraft, which I don't know anything about, but I noticed that the light was on very often late at night in his room. So we had big arguments about that many times, and we took his computer away, because one couple of days or a week sometimes, so it was a fight about this. But he was very good at Warcraft, so he was ranked high. And then he started a little bit, 16, 17, he started with a music program called FL Studio. So he started producing music. And from that on, that was his goal in life, so to say.
Yeah.
And it didn't contribute to his school, I can say. It took all his time. But he graduated at 18 years old. And there is a nice story, because the music teacher couldn't give him any marks, because he didn't come to the lesson. He didn't come to the lessons. So he brought his computer and DJ set and to the school and played his music for the teacher. And she became so, he was all excited and he got the marks in the end. So that's part of his energy as well.
Wow.
Yeah. So yeah, and from that day, I think 2008, he started small, but playing in schools, school dances and things like that. And a little bit later, he started on clubs in Europe to start with, Germany, Austria, etc. And then it sort of grew, and he began to play in the US and started, bigger clubs, hotels, and then arena shows. So it was quite a fast trip of success. Yeah. And
traveling then, right?
Sorry?
Yeah, and he started traveling a lot.
He started traveling a lot. Yes, absolutely. And we didn't see much of him, unfortunately. He was in the States touring, but he was very happy. I mean, he lived his dream because he had looked up to all these great guys: David Guetta, Tiesto, Swedish House Mafia, Laidback Luke, and he was getting closer to them. So now he was very happy with his career at that time, and it went well until 2012. In January they had a tour called House for Hunger, where he donated $1 million to Feed America, I think it's called. And at the end of that tour, which was quite intense, he was taken into hospital with an inflamed pancreas. And it's a great pain involved in that. So he got painkillers called Oxycontin, which is known as a very, what should I say? It's the cause of drug abuse in the States, and it has been discussed for many years. And I think one of the things that Trump did that we can give him credit for was that he more or less started a war against this medicine, and that was not so good for Tim. No.
And was it at this time when he was in the hospital and his physical health started to get worsened by traveling this much? Is this when the anxiety also came, or?
Well, I think so, because a medicine like that, he also got it afterwards, after he left the hospital. So he got that prescribed, and Oxycontin at that time. I mean, Anki and I, my wife and I, we didn't know anything about that medicine. We didn't see the danger in it, and I know more today, I can tell you. And it was very often prescribed in the US for pain, all sorts of pain. But of course, that takes a lot from you mentally, absolutely, and physically. Of course, it's you travel a lot. You have your gigs, late at night. Sleep. You sleep less, and a combination of less sleep, late nights, and things like that is not good.
No, and he did take a break, and then he came back again to touring again, right?
Yeah, he took a break after the hospital, but this was 2012. Then he returned to touring, and I think it was in 2012. Then it was 2013. The record True and Wake Me Up came.
Yeah.
Then in 2014, I think it was, he was once again into hospital in Miami with it's called caicum. It's an inflamed caicum and gallbladder in a combination. So that was very serious, and he was taken into hospital and surgery, and they removed those two. And he was once again on painkillers. Unfortunately. After that, he returned. He needed some time, of course, to recover from that. So he didn't play on gigs for a while, and then he returned, and his manager and I stopped the touring in August 2014. Because we noticed that things were not really the way it should. And the problem with this kind of medicine or whatever is that you don't see it directly. You can hide it very well, and it's very hard to really see, so you can be able to react on it. But we did so. His manager stopped the touring from August and the rest of 2015. And Tim was super angry because he didn't agree on this at all. So it was a tough period where he really was angry with me and angry with his manager. And of course, I felt bad, because you feel bad, even if you know they are doing a good thing. It's really so. I would say the effect was not the best. He saw a psychiatrist in Stockholm, and he tried to come into terms again with his life, but at the same time he didn't agree with us, so there was a conflict. And we went back to the States in late November, December, and then he saw a psychiatrist in LA. And it may sound very, like everything is very down here, but during these periods, he always were very active and working. So that's hard to understand, perhaps, when I tell things like this. But that's the way it is. It was, and then he saw a psychiatrist into early 2015 in Los Angeles, and he got a medicine called buprenorphine, which is supposed to treat effects of opioids like OxyContin. The problem is that when you get this kind of medicine, you should see your psychiatrist regularly. It's nothing you should handle yourself. this is not the way it was handled there, I can tell you. So the problems continued, but in another phase, so to say. During this time, he worked a lot. He had his gigs. He made big arena plays, and he worked hard as well. In the summer that year, 2015, the late summer, his manager, to Tim and I, we took the decision to make an intervention. And an intervention is when you go together, a couple of people around the person, close people, and you confront the person with a problem. And it's a very extremely hard thing to do, and it was terrible, and so I remember when we met in the house he rented in Ibiza, and we were all there. I think we were about 15 people, friends, 2 team manager, his brothers, and he came down to the kitchen, and he looked so, I saw, in his eyes, it's terrible. So, but we did it, and Tim was very stubborn that night. He was not admitting anything, and he fought back. And late in the morning, he said, "Okay, because the goal of the intervention was that he should accept a rehab in Ibiza, which he did. So late in the night, he accepted this, and then in the morning, the day, I think it was 2 or 3 o'clock. And then he said, I decided to do this from start, but I just wanted to see how long you can stand out. So he was such. He
was really stubborn.
Yeah, he was so stubborn.
Yeah.
So, but then he went to Rio, and that was a super nice place. I was there many times. I saw the psychiatrist, saw the people around. It was a beautiful place in Ibiza, and very little people there. And Tim really, went all in and made a big change in many ways. So he got out of the medicine. He started reading, meditating. And there was a beautiful older man, a psychiatrist. So there was this contrast. He was about 55, 60, and young Tim, and they understood each other really good. So I think that combination was also something that helped everything.
Yeah.
So, and after that, Tim came back, really came back in all terms, and from that on, I must say, he was going for the better month after month, and until he released the news that he was stopped doing touring and gigs, which was a super brave decision from a young guy, because it's not just saying that you put a lot of things upside down. You put people in trouble. You cancel shows, gigs, etc. But the team around him, I must say, did a beautiful job, supported him all the way, even though it meant a lot of trouble for them, money, etc. They were super supportive, and from that on, I think that Tim was absolutely going for the better. He started exercise. So we met in 2017 in LA, and that was good. And then in February 2018 was the last time we saw Tim. And we had a meeting at home in Stockholm, and we had a dinner together, Tim, Anki, and I, and it was such a nice evening, and the rest we know. Yeah. It's hard because it's hard for all the people around him, you know, and nobody didn't think that it could end up the way it did. And that's something that happens very often when it comes to suicides. I talked to so many people after this, and I heard the same over and over again. We didn't know anything, we didn't understand anything, and you know, I mean, it may sound as I mean, there is another story as well behind all this, or beside all this, and that's the story where Tim also, during these periods, were very glad and happy and full of energy. So I mean, you have to,
which is why it must be even tougher when it hit, when you see both sides of it, of course. I mean, the biggest sympathy, it's you can't even imagine being a parent myself, what that would be like. So thank you for sharing that. And can you then, if we move over then to the actual Tim Bergling Foundation that you founded last fall, what is it about, and what's your goal with the foundation?
First of all, we decided, Anki and I, my wife and I, we decided to start a foundation almost directly, because we thought, what should we do with all these, the music, the money after Tim, everything. We have to do something with this, and we also know that Tim was interested in the mental questions, and he was seeking, you know, answers. So we started the foundation, Tim Bergling Foundation, and our goal is to support professional organizations that work, do preventative actions for mental illness and suicide, and for children, young people, and young grown-ups. That's our goals, the groups we are supporting. And then there is also, but this is the goal for the coming years. Then the foundation will also address the climate question and what's to say, you know, animals, threatened animals, and nature.
Yes.
So,
and in terms of the work that you're aiming to do, you also shared with me some of the challenges with the mental health globally, and how widespread it actually is. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, if we take mental disorder, which is a very general term, it's about 790, let's say 800 million people each year. It's about 10% of the population. So it's not unique to have a portion of anxiety or even depression from time to time. These are the biggest two causes, anxiety and depression. And there's a difference between male and female. So the male has less in this case, and the female has more problem with this. And more than or close to 800,000 people end their lives by suicide each year, and it's the leading cause of death for 15 to 90-year-old people, and when it comes to suicide, it's more men than women, so it's the opposite than the other thing. And for each suicide there is 20 attempts to suicide, so this is a big problem, very big problem. And how is this treated in different countries? We have about 195 countries in the world, and about 38 of them report having a national suicide prevention strategy. 38.
Yeah.
It's
so little, and not even really working, as we discussed as well.
No, exactly, and 80 of them has reliable statistics. So I mean, and these disorders are also seen as it's a great stigma around them, taboo, and in some countries it's a crime to take your life. I don't know how you should be punished though, but it's a crime, and it's so it's a lot to do, and there is things going now in the right direction. So WHO and UN are really addressing these issues now, and urge the nations to invest much more money in building up prevention care for these disorders.
And what else? What else can we do? Both if we look at us as individuals, but of course also as society, to try to prevent this stigma around mental illness in your point of view.
What we should first of all, the society, the governments of these countries, they have to start a national strategy. I mean, that's absolutely a must, because if they don't do it, it's very hard to reach any positive sort of results. Yeah. So you need a national strategy from the government and top down. I mean, and then the schools has to be more engaged in this. There is a very positive movement in Miami where they have reduced the number of suicide to absolute minimum, and if you read it just like that, it's a very simple strategy. They just have a very clear organization to handle this in the schools. They identify the student that is in the risk area, so to say, and they follow it up very close all the way. They don't let it go. And that's part of the success, because it's a success. Yeah, and they have really reached results. And there's a similar system in Scotland. So there are positive movements that can be applied. So it doesn't mean you need. Sorry, yeah.
Yeah, so it's more than more countries and the infrastructure around needs to take more action.
Absolutely, and without discussion, the preventative actions are the most successful. There is nothing comparable, and unfortunately, we are focusing on the aftercare.
Yeah.
We take care of somebody when it's often really bad. But if you do it the other way and you start early, and they also said you should start very early in school, try to identify the pupils that shown signs, and at that stage, you can do really wonders, because then you haven't really grown into the problem, so to say.
Oh, and I mean, what would your advice be if someone experiences that someone close to them, they have this sense that the person is not feeling well? Like, what could early signs be, and what would your advice be for the person to do?
Yeah, I'm not the specialist here really, but I think we should not complicate this, because you see what you see, and it could be that the people or the person is tired. Somebody you work with, your workmate, you see that he or she is tired, and she's coming late to work, she's not prepared for meetings, or I think normal signs, of course, many things you cannot see, but I think you should, and in that case, when you feel that something is not really the way it should be, don't be afraid to ask or give a helping hand.
Reach out the hand, and
because they have the human contact is more worth than much else. And if you get recognized, if you're having trouble and you get recognized from a friend or a workmate, that's worth much more than we understand.
Yeah, I can see that. A bit more personal question, Klas. If you were to relive your life up until now, is there anything that you would have done differently, you think, when it comes to the situation with Tim?
Yes, I think so, and I know we talked about that before, and I've been thinking of it, and I think I would have been more. We would have been more concerned about the sleep, because that's a very important factor when it comes to feeling bad or feeling good. Concerned about eating regular times, and concerned about the school. We were concerned about all these things, so I cannot say that if I lived my life again with Tim, things should have been done different. It's just
like you did so much.
No, but when I sit here with a perspective, of course, I would say I would have done many things different. But that's easy to say when you have I don't know the English word for it, but when you have the answer.
Yeah, when you have the answer in your hand.
Yeah, absolutely. But for parents, I think, look after the sleep, look after the school results. Try to limit the computer gaming, and if things happen in school with friends and things like that, take it seriously. So
Yeah, thanks. This is I could talk for so much longer. It's so interesting to talk to you. But my last question is, if people who are listening in could remember only one thing from everything that you've shared, what would you like for that to be?
Yeah, I think that talk about it. Just like that, talk about it. Because as I say, if you feel bad or you notice that your workmate has a problem, don't be afraid to talk about it. It's worth so much, and yeah, the connection between people, and we talk about love very often, but that's love. When you care about somebody else, and it opens up, and that's worth a lot. So talk about it. Absolutely.
Talk about it is a great advice. Thank you so much, Klas. Well, I think I can say from both myself, of course, but also for all of my colleagues that we really appreciate it. I am still a big Avicii fan. I listen to a lot of his songs. So I love the background that you have there as well. It's fantastic.
Yeah. It's in the office here for Tim Bergling Foundation. Yeah. Okay.
So thank you, and best of luck in your amazing work with the foundation.
Yeah, and thank you. And I must say, talking about all what we can do, etc., I think really that what you do now at Google, I hope it will be followed by other companies, because if the companies open up like this and bring the question on the table, it's a big step forward. When I started working in the early 70s, we couldn't mention these questions, I tell you, and especially not at the work. So thank you very much. Okay.
Thanks for sharing. Thank you so much.
Thank you.